So, last year I had the idea to cover Chowder's finale. It's one I remember a lot, and it made me wonder how good it was to end the series, despite not really having a serialized story to tell. But weirdly enough, I found the finale perfect, taking advantage of the series' themes of childhood and subverting about grappling with the truth and pain of adulthood, and especially that it shows that you can avoid growing up, but yet you can still make your way through life and succeed in your own way, despite people's expectations. I found it a really poignant and fulfilling ending, even if I later learned it wasn't even meant to be the series ending. And it got me to wonder, what about other shows? How good are their finales at wrapping up everything, including the show, characters, and storyline in a satisfying way? I'm actually not against making this a series in the future. Like seriously, give me other shows' finales to check out and cover because I really want to try it. But there is one finale that I've somewhat recently finished that has gotten me to ask how good it was as a finale. And that's Regular Show. Regular Show is a massive staple in people's childhood, and of course I remember watching it. But even then I don't remember actively going out of my way to see it and catching up on it. Granted, Regular Show at first didn't have any storyline or serialization to it, and it was very episodic, so instead of just watching the episodes, I didn't really have a reason to catch up. But I did get motivated a while ago to finally catch up on the episodes I missed and finally finish the series. And yeah, this show gets wild by the end, as the two final seasons have a full-blown giant story arc that goes to universal levels. And it begs the question, for such a beloved show that went on for so long and started to legitimately care about its story and characters, how well did it end it all? For a show that never really tried heavy serialization aside from crappy romance plots, did it pull off its one true attempt well? Was this a satisfying conclusion to one of Cartoon Network's most popular shows? Or was it anything but? I want to get into it, so let's see if Regular Show had a good ending. So there's some things to keep in mind with this finale. One, it's 3 parts. So 3 12-minute episodes together, so I have to judge them in segments. And second, that this arc has so much buildup, it's impossible to dive into it without also explaining the buildup and how the show got to this point. And I think it's important to also refresh and inform people on what happened in the story arc to get to this point. So one day a massive dome was dropped on the park, entrapping the park employees inside. You know the Simpsons movie? It's exactly like that. But it also gives the park goers resources to be able to be self-sustained, as Benson uncovers the conspiracy of the scientists studying them, but is much more concerned with proving it was right about the email notification, and helps lead them all to escape. Mr. Mailer, the owner of the park, who orchestrated it, says that they escaped just in time for the dome experiment to be a success. The dome is somewhat taken off after, until it comes back suddenly later in the season. But luckily, they aren't trapped there. It's a simple entrance allowing them to leave and other park goers to enter, but they are still in an experiment they don't know about. However, it does prove to be some massive conspiracy they don't know about and a lot of mystery around it. Meanwhile, Pops has been enamored by a strange undocumented planet all his life, visible every 20 years, and to see it unleashes some strange unearthly psychic powers the others are dumbfounded about. The Dome scientists have multiple scientific devices and machinations to use in a few episodes and plot points, as also changing the park itself behind their backs. Which meets its breaking point in the season 7 finale, including Rigby's main plot of graduating high school for Eileen, where after the ceremony and his big inspiring speech, they're all told to go back to the park and press the mysterious button they're told not to press, which terraforms the park, revealing it to be a massive spaceship that rockets them with Eileen out from Earth's orbit and into space, stranding them. They have some close calls and find out how much the scientists have rearranged the park, adding new high-tech devices for space travel and fighting off evil, until rescued by agents of the Galactic Park Rangers, headquartered in the Space Tree. Revealing it's a collection of multiple different park domes across the entire world, potentially as a means of extraplanetary colonization, as well as an ulterior motivation for them they don't know about. For the most part, the characters are all for this awesome space adventure, and spend a good chunk of the season getting to sci-fi antics around the space tree, and visiting other planets and training to become Galactic Park Rangers. But something is after Pops as he develops his strange psychic power, eventually culminating in their Space Ranger graduation being fully certified. But then they are attacked by a powerful dark being they named Anti-Pops, with the ability to erase anything from existence. As they make a hasty escape and counterattack from their clutches in a massive evacuation in the park ship, now trying to find out what their real mission is and the role Pops has in all of this. where they go on a massive trail to try and get answers and what their mission really is, fighting bounty hunters and an existing resistance force, where Pops is the chosen one who will save the universe, eventually leading them to get a VHS from Maylard explaining everything, where Pops wasn't his son, but he was found in a meteorite, with a scroll explaining that he was one of two brothers. He was Megacranus, the embodiment of pure good, and the other Malumcranus, the embodiment of pure evil, destined to fight. He raised Pops like his son, trying to keep him safe, but knows the universe is in danger with his evil brother amassing a force to destroy it. And he's the only one to stop it and needs to master his godlike powers to stand a chance, needing to find his training master but proclaims his love for him as a son. As his master Earl explains that the universe is just a battleground for the two cosmic beings in a final confrontation every 14 billion years. But when they clash, their power is so great that it literally creates the Big Bang and resets time and space. And this has happened dozens, if not hundreds of times in the past, with Earl being one of the few who remembers each time, desperate to break the cycle. Yeah, remember when this started with two guys trying to get out of fixing a wall? Eventually, Earl manages to train Pops to unlock his full potential and abilities through a Dragon Force song. However, Pops' pacifist nature doesn't make him want to fight his brother, and tries to make peace with him, which ultimately fails as Anti-Pops proves he's immovable in his plight to destroy the universe and nearly kills Pops before the others rescue him, as Earl sacrifices himself so they can get away. Then going to a weird planet that's framed like a Format Wars episode, even though it's plot pivotal. I'll get to this later. Like, really, it's a massive allegory for the media shift to streaming that manifests as a giant streaming monster, and it's right near the end of the show, culminating in a Matrix reference with the Seer, who literally watches the show, giving practically a series recap, and tells of the end of the universe, and effectively the show, with the final battle with his twin, before fleeing the monster of streaming voiced by Keith David of all things.
Finally, I can add you all to my queue of destruction!
Yes, it seems unrelated, but it's important. As the Seer tells them they need to go to Pop's favorite planet for the final battle, as Pops pleads there must be another way. However, just before they get to their destination, the park crew wants to cheer up Pops and have a huge party in his honor after he's stressed out for the ultimate battle to decide the fate of the universe, inviting a bunch of characters from the show that someone got to space. But though he's happy, he's concerned now realizing all he loved might be gone tomorrow, but they'll give their support and trust in Pops, and it's a great moment. Deciding to make a time capsule of their memories that will keep existing, which Blu-ray makes out as a DVD box set and buries it in the park. Also this moment.
A panel on my back.
Yeah.
There you go. Almost got it.
Oh, there's so many buttons back here.
Man, Benson really gets it on, that's why he's the best. As Pops is glad to have his friends back him up on his ultimate fight, reinvigorate him for the final confrontation with his dark twin. Yeah, this show got freaking insane. For a show that didn't have any seasonal arcs outside of really crappy romance love triangles, this was a huge amount of lore and buildup, and I think it works really well. I cannot understate how well the stakes were built up through the season, and the atmosphere and the sense of true finality it has. From the lore of Pops and Anti-Pops, to him developing his powers, to the resets of the universe, to the body show with all his friends, it's really fantastic and I love it so much. This finale wouldn't be nearly as good without his incredible buildup, I have to shout it out. But that does finally bring us to the start of the finale, a regular epic final battle, part 1. It turns out that Pops' favorite planet this whole time was his home planet, Lolliland, a name that is now ruined by internet terminology. Seriously, never say your favorite place is Lolliland. But this is actually a super far back reference to one of J.G. Quintel's early short films, The Naive Man from Lolliland, which is Pops' first appearance. Even his flying car Carmita was from it. So yeah, like Benson and Mordecai, Pops is literally just a recycled character from one of his early works. It's actually a really cool addition. If only they did the same to 2 AM and the PM where Benson and Mordecai trip balls doing drugs together. Actually, that was kind of Mississippi Queen, so it makes sense why Pops was drawn to the planet since the beginning, as it was where he originated. But it's also a wasteland somehow with records of previous battles. Strange since with the universal resets wouldn't it continually refresh itself? I don't know, it's probably an anomaly. But they get greeted by some of the inhabitants, some who look just like Pops.
I'm Frivola Cranus. I'm Quadravicranus.
And I'm Weird Mushroom Guy.
But wait, a few seasons ago, there were already a bunch of people who looked like Pops' high school reunion. I mean, I know this whole arc is a massive retcon, but what? Were they all immigrants from Lolliland, or is this a massive coincidence? Actually, is Mr. Maylard one too? In the flashback, he and his wife look just like them. Oh well, anyway, they meet the Guardian, this Statue of Liberty looking lady, who says that Lolliland continually exists every cycle to record the outcome of each battle, but remarks that she has never seen a victory, just mutual destruction. Which again, is a really cool addition with genuine lore that also builds up the stakes, where the inhabitants lead them to the tapestries where every battle was recorded, apparently explaining that Pops is the perfect evolution of a Lolliland inhabitant. Wait, then how does that explain the cosmic entity? Like literally, it was explained that they're the embodiment of good and evil with universal power given by fate. How are they a product of evolution? Like really, I figured they were just the avatars of a universal force under the form of a species, but I'm confused by this explanation. Granted, they did say that he was a perfect creation, with anti-pops existing for universal balance. Still doesn't quite make sense to me. I know it's regular show, it never makes any sense, but they did a really good job building up the lore of this part, so this seems kinda contradictory. But the tapestries show that there were different battles, but ultimately end up in the same outcome and timeline. Even everyone else took place in this battle in a previous cycle and relived this exact moment. Again, it's another really cool moment that built up this conflict so much. How are they gonna win this if they already tried so many times before? However, Mordecai gets an idea that since the battle has been recorded and repeated so many times, they know how the battle will start, and they can use it to intervene and gain the advantage, planning to make a death trap for him so Pops can win even if Pops is against his underhanded tactics with his nature. Not a bad idea all things considered, and takes advantage of the repeated timeline, though they have plenty of time to do so. And you might ask, where is Anti-Pops in all of this? Well, it turns out he threw such a massive tantrum the last time they met that he literally erased most of his armada, effectively stranding him. And then tries to take a smaller ship and then hits a random space deer. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna get into it, and it's one of my biggest problems with the story arc. Anti-Pops kinda sucks. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I genuinely think he's not written well and ruined so much of his presence and role as an active antagonist. I love the lore. Again, I like the established stakes and build-up that works so well, but as a character, you can't take him seriously. He has insane power, also practically a god, able to make dark constructs as well as effectively having an insta-kill erasure attack that nearly even killed Pops, with most encounters having the heroes barely escape him. But as a character, he's a whiny man-child who constantly f***s up his own plans. Like, literally, he's one of the most incompetent characters in the show. Nearly every loss he's had is entirely his fault, and not even just circumstance, it's solely because he does something stupid that doesn't benefit him at all. Them escaping the space tree because of whatever this is.
1,000 push-ups in 2 minutes. Impossible. Watch me.
And push-ups.
Should I take him out, sir?
No. I want to see how this ends.
Literally destroying his own armada and ship because he's mad. Like literally, he could have won multiple times as a moron. The only time he's been remotely competent and threatening was in the Kill Him With Kindness episode, where he was able to overpower a naive Pops, but that's really it. Even beyond that, every other scene of him is just whining, throwing another tantrum, or just doing his gimmick of hating the universe so badly. Like he prides himself on leaving bad reviews on stuff he's never actually experienced, which come on, start an animation review channel or do something actually threatening. It undermines the entire threat level when he's just a man baby hating on things just because. Again, that one scene was the most threatening and nuanced his character got, which is so off because every other scene barely feels like the same character. The show seems to go out of its way to treat him like a joke, even later forcing him to take a space Uber with his unnamed He-Man rejects. It's just taking the piss out of a literal, universal threat the entire arc is based off of right before the final fight. Like, I get wanting your villain to be more than just a boring evil for evil character, which really he still is, and wanting to make him humorous, but the show does it so often he's practically a joke. He doesn't come off as a destructive villain, but some whiny doofus who coincidentally has insanely destructive power and never uses it well. Honestly, it's like if Season 1 Ice King was the main threat of the finale for the show. Like, sure, he can be threatening and powerful at times, but the show treats him more like a sad, obnoxious joke than an actual primary villain. Seriously, this dude is so stupid and incompetent that even Black Hat in his orientation video called him one of the most worthless rulers of darkness and a pathetic joke who ruins himself more than his actual antagonist, and I have to agree there. I know the joke of these orientation videos is that they're taking the piss out of the CN multiverse's villains, like they're being reviewed by the ultimate evil force in the multiverse, but this is like the one situation where they're completely right. Also, Don't watch that video if you felt anything in the finale, it will piss you off. Again, I can't really take this antagonist seriously when the buildup as a manifestation of pure evil in the universe with guy levels of power as a dark titan, and yet is stuck on an Uber ride frustrated because he destroyed his own armada, which becomes an issue later. And that's not even it with his problems. It sucks because I also wish Anti-Pops was more of a dark reflection of Pops' nature and go into the opposite side of the coin. I want to get more of his mindset of why he hates the universe, but there's barely anything. Like without that one scene in the arcade, I get basically nothing. It was really disappointing on an arc with this much buildup.
I want peace for this universe. This place and its creatures offer me nothing. Everything is broken, Pops. Just like these games. But I have the solution for broken things.
So, literally because the villain was so stupid he screwed up his main method of attack, they had time to make the trap. As he arrives with his He-Man reject henchmen who don't even get names. Also, I swear to God he sounds like Tom Kenny here.
I'm surprised you're still standing after our last showdown. I love a mutiny. Backstabbing betrayal, yeah, that's for me.
Like literally, I had to check to see if I wasn't being Mandela affected, but no, it's voiced by Robert Englund, aka Freddy Krueger. God, he really is a Season 1 Ice King. Anyways, Pops wants to call out the fight to make peace, but of course Anti-Pops won't stop until he destroys the universe. You know, it's not a great plan. Yeah, I know he hates everything like your average YouTube commenter, but if you succeed, then what? You're just gonna exist in the void for all eternity? You're not recreating the universe in your image, you're destroying literally everything. Even Villain has acknowledged it's an idiotic plan, he has no way to escape the void. I think Count Bleck was the only time I've seen this plan actually kind of make sense. The fight is also treated like a sporting event with an anthem and everything, which is one of the kids of comedic undermining I don't mind, since it's still around the base conflict and kind of reinforces the loop of a fated event that happens annually. But Anti-Pops falls for the trap set up, and I gotta give it to the park crew, they really went all out to ensure that no one could survive. But unfortunately...
That tickled.
Okay, I'll hand it to them. That was pretty good. So yeah, he's the cosmic titan that can't be defeated by conventional ways and needs an actual cosmic level power. Leading to the second part. Do love this lampshading though.
No one could survive that.
Huh. Do you ever think about how many people we've seen probably die?
Yeah, I'm sure they're all fine.
I heard that the regular show crew were allowed to kill any character as long as it was in an explosion, which is a pretty funny callback. Which Anti-Pops agrees to a deal of a mono-e-mono hand-to-hand combat, and whoever knocks down the other wins. This is a cool way to have a personal fight without going full cosmic just yet, and also a great callback to Pops' skill in wrestling that the previous seasons established. Come to think of it, it is weird how Pops is so against fighting here when he was an established wrestler in multiple episodes, but I guess there's a difference between fighting for sport and actual fights to the death with the universe on the line. Though Anti-Pops is on the same level as Pops in terms of melee, even more so, the fight's actually pretty neat, especially when they start using their powers. But through it, Pops technically was able to win by knocking down Anti-Pops and winning the wager. But of course, Anti-Pops was never actually going to concede to a loss, and then gets his henchmen to fire and keep trying to kill Pops. And then... the episode does one of the worst things it can in my opinion, and brings the new characters to the fight, streaming. Yes, streaming. The manifestation of streaming shows up to assist Anti-Pops and kills the heroes if it was a Format Wars episode. In the actual finale. Now if you don't know, Regular Show has a few episodes in the Format Wars series, effectively bringing to life the evolution and discontinuation of media formats through an actual war with superpowered representations of the platforms and armies. Before it was VHS outcompeting Laserdisc, then the rise of DVD and the internet, and kind of the last time introduced Blu-ray and streaming taking over the world. Now I want to say, I freaking love the Format Wars episodes. To me, they're some of the best episodes of the show, full of awesome action and hilarious moments, and arguably perfectly capture the spirit of Regular Show. Like seriously, Format Wars 2 is one of my favorite episodes, even as Joel McHale as DVD.
DVD! Way to crack the jewel case, Laserdisc Holmes. Or should I say, Sherlock Father? Show's gonna last 3 weeks! 6 seasons and a movie!
And a Format Wars episode in Season 8, the most overtly sci-fi season, would be absolutely perfect for its Star Wars parody element. But this is possibly the worst way to do it. The format wars are pure dumb fun, over the top and extreme, and they're basically just meta commentary. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. But then that becomes a huge problem when it's shoved into the literal final story arc of the show. Suddenly it goes to, no, this meta parody of the entertainment industry is now a fundamental part of this multi-seasonal story arc that ends the show in a core part of its finale. Like, streaming itself has now become one of the primary antagonists of the show, which has ruined so much of it. After all the lore and build-up, this basic over-the-top joke is fighting for screen time and attention from the viewer against the arc they actually got invested in. It's like if GBF came again out of nowhere to be the biggest threat. What are we doing? And I don't know why they did this. Like, again, I want a Format Wars episode, but doing it this way is awful. Like, they should have made a normal Format Wars 3 episode somewhere early in the season. Like, you have an episode you can replace, like, get rid of that Ear Alien episode, it's not worth it. They can bring back DVD, introduce Blu-ray and streaming as an evolution of the internet for the previous episode, and then have all the over-the-top fun and meta commentary on the industry you want there, as you can potentially end it with the previous episode with the Seer. I don't think that episode works as well as it does with the current state because it was half lore and half Format Wars episode fighting for control, which is the worst of both worlds. You don't get a Format Wars episode at its peak, and it distracts so much from the important lore and build to the finale. Like, most of what happened there has absolutely nothing to do with the main plot and purpose of the episode. I'm not against having some of that since the Seer is literally someone who watches this show like it's a series and it could tie into it, which is why I think it was better if this was the second part to a previous full Format Wars episode. That way you can still have that meta commentary, but end it here while organically progressing through the main storyline. Like have DVD and Blu-ray finally defeat streaming and his empire by promising that he'll never truly die for added meta. Now, I do have the feeling this was intentional, the writers venting their problems of streaming to the network as it was on the rise, and that it is literally a threat to the show. Which unfortunately became a very true prediction, you Zaslav. But again, making it a big part of the multi-seasonal final arc just for this meta joke to barge in as a legitimate threat in the actual plot you've been anticipating is such a bad call. It would work better if this thing was relegated to the previous episodes just before the finale, so you have the meta commentary for the industry right before the final arc so the point stays, but doesn't ruin it. Honestly, this kind of feels like padding. Like they can't have the big cosmic fight just yet, they have to introduce a new antagonist out of nowhere to extend it in 2 parts. And so the rest of the parkour can get involved in the action. Except there is a big thing that could have served this literal exact role and yet worked so much better in the plot they were building up. Just have it Anti-Pops' Armada. You know, his massive Death Star-like space army. Why wasn't that the big threat here? It makes much more sense that Anti-Pops would stick his massive army on Pops and the heroes after he lost, especially if he's mad that they cheated first anyway. That would be a big episode threat that would fit right in the conflict instead of a completely outside force that doesn't have the same goal as the villain and is literally just here just because. This whole thing does become a massive callback to so many other characters, bringing back plenty of guys like DVD and Blu-ray, the Baby Ducks, the Galactic Park Ranger friends from the first half of the season, Guardians of Eternal Youth, Death, Chowder and Briggs, and Party Horse. Yeah, I really don't like Party Horse, I kinda wish he wasn't here.
That horse right there fell out of the sky and has to pass a US history test or the whole Earth is gonna explode.
What?
And I want this to happen. I want a huge epic fight bringing all the characters and their ally just before the ultimate climax. I want to call back to one of the most over-the-top and memorable episodes in Brilliant Century Duck Crisis, in the final fight, and also bringing all the other characters. But they're not fighting anything worth it. It's a nothing character that's just a meta joke. Even when I first saw this, I was shocked and didn't know why on earth they're dedicating this huge, massive fight against streaming, and completely took me out of the main conflict they were building up for so long. Again, if it was against the Armada, it would be awesome, a massive Star Wars-inspired space fight, where all the characters could have a part in actively taking down the main villain's forces. This Armada literally took out the Space Tree and the Galactic Park Rangers halfway through the season. It would make sense if it was the penultimate threat. But no, fight streaming itself instead when the main built-up conflict just kind of exists in the background. Like, why not just make a Kaiju David Zaslav trying to write off the show for taxes? Actually, no, that would actually be cathartic. Like, again, I really don't know why they didn't do it. Did not have the budget for it or something? I mean, I figure if you can do it once early in the season, you can have the space fight again later. You can see why I find this is a massive problem, right? It practically ruins this whole episode when most of it is dedicated to a fight with absolutely no substance that actively detracts from the main arc going on. We could have had Anti-Pops actively contribute to his own fight effort and bring in the Armada that literally destroyed the character's home base for the first half of the season, but they literally destroy it off screen because the dude threw a temper tantrum and destroyed it himself. The thing that took out the space tree got written out off screen. The closest thing we have is Anti-Pops' loser squad taking pot shots from the Uber driver's car. Like, seriously? These guys are the biggest threat he has? I don't even know why they exist. They're nothing characters. They have no personality, backstory, or anything. This weird goons he yells at.
I hit a space deer once. They're way stronger than you'd think.
Quiet!
No, my chip.
Maybe if they were in a space fight with the Armada, we could get to know their deal at least a little, but no, this is all we got. These guys do not deserve to take out Mordecai and Rigby's ship they got from their movie. I really don't want to hate this fight. It has a lot of scenes that should be cool, like all these characters coming back, a new duck mech, and bringing back the movie ships, but it just loses so much on what this fight essentially amounts to. Fighting underwritten, underutilized villains, when it should feel like a fight for the universe. Also, rest in peace that Uber driver and go to hell, Anti-Pops' loser squad. So yeah, they defeat those guys in streaming, and basically accomplish nothing. Again, why is this here aside from padding? As Pops practically off-screen defeats Anti-Pops. This is what I like to see in my finale episode. The main conflict put to the side and happening off-camera, while the rest of the characters fight the embodiment of Netflix for no reason. But Anti-Pops finally unleashes his massive cosmic titan form, uses ultimate erasure attack, and it's pretty cool actually. But like, why didn't you do that before? And whatever, that's the least of the episode's problems. But hey, it's finally picking back up again, so I'm grateful. Also, I thought Lolliland couldn't be destroyed since before it constantly re-exists every cycle to record the battles. Something different this time, but it's actually starting to consume the characters as Muscle Man and High Five are caught as Pops doesn't try to save them to no avail. But at least it went out like a G.
You know who else grows really big to show their dominance, but is actually really small deep down? My mom.
And losing his friends pushes Pops to go to his own Cosmic Titan form. And it's finally picking up and feeling like a legitimate finale again with actual stakes in development. But Pops still tries to solve this peacefully as both try to destroy and save Lolliland. As everyone else is helpless on the struggle, and it's actually really intense. And literally, nearly everyone is caught and erased from existence. Yeah, virtually every character just died. Mordecai and Rigby barely escaped the planet's orbit in time. And now witness Anti-Pops nearly kill Pops in a black hole, only to rocket themselves preparing for an ultimate class of fists, just like what was shown in the previous cycle, that'll restore all of existence once again. Knowing if they collapse the universe will end again, they have no choice but to practically kamikaze themselves to intercept the impact of the Titans, ending the episode with an explosion. Wow, what a way to end. So yeah, I have a lot of problems with this episode that practically all the conflict came from a random arrival of streaming, which is literally just a meta joke and that's the thing to get all the characters to fight. It feels so detached from the arc that the actual build-up conflict is literally on the sidelines, and yet while the fight is over the top, I wish it was actually for something related to the arc and was built up, instead of basically a format-worse episode functioning as the finale. Now it does get going really well in the last like 2 minutes when Anti-Pops finally takes control of his own episode, and goes all out killing virtually all the characters and forcing Pops to awaken his final form, and build up the stakes to the end of the universe. That was really well done, and I wish most of the episode was like that. But to the finale of the finale, The Power. Literally, it starts out exactly like The Power, the very first episode of the show, weirdly enough. Season 1 off mildness and all. So, I guess they failed and the universe reset once again. However though, Rigby eventually gets deja vu, but Mordecai doesn't believe it. But Rigby remembers something from the past timeline, and proves it by trying to dig up the memory box set from that one episode before the finale. Wait, why would that be here? Like really, that disc was made years in the future from this moment, even if Rigby did know exactly where it was buried in the park itself. I don't think Blu-ray said anything about it being temporally and spatially distorted. It makes no sense. But it makes Mordecai remember, but everyone else isn't real? What? And Rigby theorizes that they were in a glitch in the universe after the impact. What? So them intersecting cosmic level fists being the equivalent of a gnat didn't make the universe reset, but transported them to a weird unexplained time glitch where objects that shouldn't exist are in it? God, this is making me beg for the logic of a time NATO. Seriously, I'm just having trouble wrapping my head around this plot point. Honestly, it's barely even a plot point, it's just a thing that happened, almost like a fake out with barely any explanation. I'm not really a fan of it, even though I do think it's great that the box set came back. I just wish it was in something that made more sense. I do love how they use the power to get out, that's great. But yeah, it seems that their ship intercepting the punch somehow didn't cause the universal reset like it should have. I guess the force to start the Big Bang, which is a few cubic meters of steel off from being virtually nothing. Pops is distraught thinking that his brother killed all his friends, but is relieved when the two come back. Unfortunately, the power gets destroyed practically as soon as they get it, so honestly, yeah, that was kind of mostly pointless. Landing them back on Lolliland. What? How is Lolliland still there? Wasn't it literally just erased? He still tries to erase it, like, what just happened last episode until it flat out explodes? Does Lolliland just like constantly restore itself or something? I don't know. As Pops is knocked into a black hole where he's face to face with the naive man from Lolliland's short film? What the hell? It kinda means nothing. It just launches out of there and literally flies through the title itself in space and starts to get destroyed. Okay, not gonna lie, that's pretty awesome. But then the world starts turning into a storyboard. I would wonder why, but when Andy Pops uses his power, it's shown through a regression of the animation process, so I guess that's what destroying the universe looks like. But Pops gets an epiphany just as Mordecai and Rigby are about to die for real this time to find another way to end the conflict. Warping to save Mordecai and Rigby, who are somehow alive in space? Oh, like, wasn't this a big deal in the first season 8 episode? As he brings them to safety and tells them he knows what he needs to do, depowering himself against his brother's cosmic titan form. In this really well animated scene, he's about to unleash his wrath. Pops just tackles him, but not tackling, hugging him, which somehow like reawakens his heart and tricks him also to a depowered state. And then...
The minute you let me go, I'm gonna blast you.
I know, so I'm not going to let go.
And is launching them right into a star. Yes, Pops is going to kill both of themselves to end the conflict. Okay, yeah, you're really hitting me in the feels. As Anti-Pops now regrets his negativity to the world and wants to take it all back. And then...
You and I together, brother.
Now this scene I need to talk about because it's the most important part. One, it is beautiful. The animation gets better and the music is so great that it sets the poignant atmosphere incredibly.
Guess this is it.
And it brings the emotions to the forefront. And it's the perfect way to end this conflict. The entire arc was built up on the never-ending cycle of conflict, with these two godlike figures continually destroying themselves forced to fight. As Pops constantly tried to find a way to resolve it peacefully, asking everyone from his master to the seer to even his friends, but they all say he has to fight. But fighting hasn't ever changed the outcome. So instead of fighting, he does what he's always wanted to. Resolve it peacefully, give his brother a hug instead of trying to kill him. And it makes it so that no one else can get hurt. Pops is the most kindest, selfless, and goodwill person in the entire show. In this final sacrifice, using what makes him himself to save the day at the cost of his own life is so poignant and beautiful to his character. It's an action that generally means so much and so emotional to witness. Like, it's really hard not to get emotional at this moment. But unfortunately, I still find a few problems, mainly from Anti-Pops. I don't know how much I like it that Pops seemingly was able to will Anti-Pops into being compassionate with his powers. It's very vague, but it does kind of cheapen the moment to me if that was the case. But giving Anti-Pops a regretful realization, practically with no build-up, I don't think it was handled that well. It goes back to my problems with this character, that he's not nuanced at all and hates everything seemingly just because. Kill him with kindness is the most introspection we see, and that he finds no value in anything and that it's all broken. But that doesn't even always work, as his first appearance literally is him leaving a bad review on a restaurant he never went to, just enjoying being a dick about it. It's what makes me wish their relationship was written better and truly went to the parallel sides.
You see, positive energy can fix so much, even a sad heart like yours.
I want more focus on this aspect, like how Pops is able to see the joy in anything and the wonder it brings that Anti-Pops can. But it's how much companionship means to Pops and his friends that Anti-Pops couldn't see. And in this final moment when they're so close, he can project what worth he sees in the universe and makes Anti-Pops realize his folly and willingly gives up and embraces his brother for the last time. And then give a specific reason on why he would change his entire ideals in that moment. I don't know if when he hugged him he changed his mind completely or at his oncoming death he regretted it, but his character flipped too much for my liking, and it's just because it's this close to being amazing, this close to becoming truly great. All the ingredients are there, it just wasn't quite executed that way. But overall, I will say it's truly an impactful scene that's beautiful and the best way to end this conflict.
I wish I could take it all back.
You can try. You and I together, brother.
Also brings Mordecai and Rigby to tears as one of their closest friends sacrifices his life to save everyone and everything as the universe explodes in their face. And I don't really know what happened after. There's no universal reset, as with their death, this cycle has been broken once and for all, so it's not like it's another one. We cut to Earth months later with the announcement that the Park Dome is coming back, with all the characters back. And I really don't understand how. Everyone outside of Mordecai and Rigby literally got erased from existence, and the universal reset couldn't have happened. So, how is everyone back from the dead? Literally, my only guess is that Antipops' death somehow reversed everything he did in the race, but that's not made clear at all. And I know I spent a lot of time here picking apart the plot holes, and I'm sure people are gonna say like, oh, it's a regular show, it's not supposed to make sense. And yeah, but this is a massive story arc that ends the series, and you are 100% supposed to take seriously. It's not like, why are these FNAF animatronics alive? Who cares?
Gun!
But these are legitimate issues and questions brought up by the serialized storyline that I feel to get enough answers to where it becomes confusing. But it leads to the classic ending montage where everyone's friends and family comes back to relieve that they're okay. Muscle Man apparently became a father, what? But much more emotionally, Mr. Mailer is seen crying knowing that he lost his son. And then everyone is seen putting up a statue in the park in Pops' memory. Yep, that's perfect. Seriously, tear gouging, no changes necessary. Though also showing that Mordecai and Rigby do leave the park and go their separate ways, with Mordecai going and finishing his art career, and Eileen and Rigby tying the knot and starting a family together. Also great and what you want for these characters. Also showing that Benson still works as the park manager, with a new set of staff, priding himself on his work, and got with Pam, which is nice because the dude seriously deserves his happy ending. Even Muscle Man has a huge family. Which, Muscle Man wasn't the most well-defined character, with most of his development being his relationship with Starla, so it does work for him. Even if Skips doesn't really change, it makes sense as him still living his immortality. Even High Five's fine is still with Celia, which does suck because that was literally his only defining character trait. God, he really was done dirty in this show. You really couldn't have written anything else in the 244 episodes. Also in the same line, it's shown that Mordecai literally bumped into a random Batgirl, and they got married. Seriously, show? Like, okay, the Mordecai romance plot was by far the worst part of this show, being a poorly written, frustrating love triangle that went on for most of its run with so many dumb moments, snail pace, and stupid pointless drama that literally ended it all being for absolutely nothing. So now it literally gets resolved that the person to finally be with them is a random unnamed lady who has like 3 seconds of screen time. It's kind of infuriating. Granted, I do kind of love the design. Though speaking of which, unfortunately CJ and Thomas get completely snubbed in this montage with no acknowledgement of them or what happened to them in the future. And that really sucks, since even though they weren't main characters, they still were important characters people got attached to during the course of the show, and seeing no acknowledgement of what happened to them in the finale seriously blows. Margaret as well, she doesn't show up after they first came back to Earth, which also sucks too. It does hurt this part since this was to show the happy ending for all the characters the show made us care about, and seeing a good chunk get snubbed hurts to see. Like, maybe it could be time, but that pointless power glitch segment was like literally 3 minutes long, almost for the entire episode. You could have cut some of it out for this. But either way, it does end perfectly with all the characters and their new families coming back together to the park that started it all, taking a group photo by the statues of their lost companions. Finally, at older Mordecai and Rigby, reminiscing on their lives that Pops gave to them, and remembering their old video games used to play, and to do another round for nostalgia's sake. That's perfect. Now, I heard people say this was a much better finale than Adventure Time's, and yeah, that finale was very flawed, I'm not denying it. But I do find this finale pretty flawed as well. I went off on a lot of factors that hold back this special. As I said, I think Anti-Pops isn't that well written as a character and antagonist, and I wish their relationship with Pops was more interesting and fleshed out. I wish he didn't screw himself over most of the time, was treated like practically a joke. I wish that the second part wasn't nearly entirely dedicated to fighting a complete joke character with no narrative importance, and not against the actual established threat that was built up earlier in the arc, with the actual main conflict pushed to the sideline. Some of the plot points and aspects were weird and confusing, Anti-Pop's character turn at the very end kinda came out of nowhere, and the ending montage that's supposed to give all the characters their ending left some important characters out. It's definitely not a perfect finale and has some clear problems in it. I find it funny to compare it to my first finale video on Chowder. That show didn't have a story or characterization to follow, its finale just kind of existed, and it wasn't even intended to be a finale. But I found a lot of the themes it gave did really work well for the show, and gave it a very satisfying conclusion despite the rest of the show not really needing one. This one is the opposite, it's built up this story arc, it's built up the characters, interactions, and lore, and really made this the biggest possible finale, so it's held to a much higher standard. You gotta ask, base minimum, is this a satisfying way to end the series? Now, I talked about my problems with the finale, We need to talk about what genuinely worked about it. 1, the buildup was genuinely fantastic. For a regular show's first and only genuine story arc, I think this was done really well, with hints and build up to the episode about Pops' true origin and the conflict going back eons with the universe on a continuous cycle in the conflict. The pure end-all be-all nature of the fight was done super well. It seems like an impossible situation to deal with, and the stakes were great. This is one of the best parts of the final story arc that I feel to get credit that they did a great job. I do love the over-the-top nature of it. Not only again with the stakes being in a universal level, but also doing it in such an over-the-top way. Even though I hated why it was used, a new form of the Duck Neko with everyone joining in is exactly what you'd want to see, and I love the new abilities the characters brought. Hey, wait, they didn't do the step off move. Never mind, this sucked. But even beyond it, the over-the-top nature of the fight with the magical construct, summoning to planetary destruction was awesome, and so the pure scale of this fight in an incredible means, even literally going beyond the title sequence. But the thing that really needs to make a finale is its emotional impact. Audiences have been attached to these characters for so long and need proper closure on their adventures for them to feel satisfied. And of course, there's the big moment everyone remembers, of Pops' sacrifice. I already mentioned I think this was the right way to end this conflict. Pops' nature was never to fight. He just wanted to love his brother, thinking he can fix him with a hug. He was told he needed to fight, but every time they did, they just continued the cycle. So he did what he always knew was the right course of action. He knew what he had to do to save everyone, and he gladly did it and didn't want his friends to feel sad.
Don't worry, Mordecai and Rigby. I know you're sad, but I promise this is a happy ending. Take care of each other. Goodbye.
It's the ultimate marker of Pops' character, so kind and thoughtful, and even got his brother to see his perspective, even just for a brief moment, and accept their fate. It's just a beautiful scene that hits you so emotionally, and a character that's truly impactful through the execution and what it meant. And of course, they gave him the proper honor he deserves after. It's beautiful. Then there's the montage after showing how everyone ended up. I said before that they didn't feature everyone they should have, and that is really a problem. And it's one thing I feel the Adventure Time finale did much better, since pretty much everyone got a conclusion. Granted, some I wish did better, like the show treating Flame Princess as solely defined by her rap hobby, come the hell on. But everyone who did get featured had a satisfying conclusion and happy ending to them that fit with their characters, many moving on and having happy lives with each other, until coming back to the park 25 years later. And ending with Mordecai and Rigby trying to relive what they love to do at this park again is practically perfect. Though I do wish they dug the DVD memory case back up. I think that would have been the perfect place to have it, especially if they play on the TV in the house. It really meant something to the characters, and it felt super satisfying to resolve it in this way. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I think regular shows shouldn't have a continuation. I've heard it's getting a revival season, and I really don't think it can work. At least as a continuation, because you already ended it. You had a literal, universal-sized climax going beyond the show itself. Nothing is going to possibly top that. And the characters already had their futures and given happy ending. Doing anything beyond that just feels forced. In Adventure Time, you can do anything you want with the world and make new characters, as Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake proved. You can tell infinite stories. But what's regular show without Mordecai and Rigby at the park? You ended it this way, and it doesn't stay ended to me. Maybe if it's ambiguous adventures before the big final arc, it might work, but even then. But I guess if I do feel that way about its ending, it did work. It left me satisfied where I don't want to see anything else done with the franchise. And it's left its impact on me. I know that so many other people who watched it and got attached to it, thinking it was a great finale. I will say it totally has its problems and it's far from perfect. But if this is the case, for what it did the important stuff right. It did it really right that so many people love it. It's not perfect, but hey, I'd still say it's a pretty good finale. What can I say but good show. Jolly good show indeed.
Jolly good show.
This is the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny. Good guys, bad guys, and explosions. This is the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny.